Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the OK Grognard Show. It is Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020, 9:30 a.m. Central in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Tuesday, of course, is Cartography and World Building Day, and it might be no surprise to some people that I'm continuing with world building stuff. I don't have any cartography yet. I know there's been this sort of deficit of cartographizing. I should just do a whole episode on places you can go to pick up cartography programs and pick up tips on doing maps and stuff. I just haven't been making a lot of maps myself or even adjusting maps lately personally, so it's hard to I don't want to shoehorn in a cartography thing when I've got so much. Well, world building is pretty much a open-ended subject, and we'll never run out of world building stuff to discuss. Whereas with cartography, it's a little more narrow. Greyhawk Convention. Yeah, yesterday I looked up the stuff that was going on at Virtual Greyhawk, and I think we covered quite a bit looking over their schedule. I haven't settled on much, but most of what I'm going to do is pretty open in that there are the larger seminars and events, games that are being run that you can watch and enjoy and chime in on in the chat, and it's fun. It's also something you can do while you're doing other things. You can multitask while you're watching a show. You don't have to be transfixed. It's not like I don't know. What are some of the tougher quizzes? It's not University Challenge. You don't have to listen to every word or feel like you've lost a moment and you're going to miss a question. I mean, even Jeopardy you can listen to with one ear while you do something else, right? But there are definitely shows, and there are mysteries, movies, certain thrillers that if you're not paying attention, you might miss some vital clue, which is the foreshadowing of, you know, the carefully woven in hints so that when you get to the end, it's surprising but inevitable because you remember that time earlier in the movie when they swept past the end table in someone's living room and there was a Flannery O'Connor short story collection there, and that was the clue that led you to who was the killer. But yeah, well, twisty here. Anyway, DMG stuff just never gets old for me. I'm constantly enjoying all of the rediscoveries and, in some cases, new discoveries. Stuff I don't remember reading the first time I went through. Um, I would not want to just read through the entire Dungeon Master Guide cover to cover, starting at page 1 and working my way through. I think Ben Milton is doing that on his wonderful Questing Beast YouTube channel, and I think he does a great job with that. And it's neat that somebody who has not read it before, maybe, is aware of it, maybe has glanced at sections of it, but has not read the whole thing at one point or another, or even piecemeal, is now reading through it, and as he goes, making comments on the various aspects of the Dungeon Master's Guide that strike him. And he's seeing, because he's pretty entrenched in modern old schoolism. Is that a thing? the OSR and new RPG design with a tinge of old schoolness in some cases, or maybe coming from people that like certain aspects of old school gaming, so they want to embrace those aspects and then build a kind of a contemporary modern RPG around them. Well, I love this about the old school. The rest of that stuff, maybe not so much. But I'll take this and I'll take this. The bookkeeping, let's jettison encumbrance. And I don't need people to keep track of their rations and mark off a day every time they, just plunk some money down every time you go into town, and it'll be for maintenance. And there's my. But I like deadly combat, so I'm keeping that. So and that's all right. It's is it really old school revival though if you only cherry pick one or two things and then write a whole RPG around? Maybe to you, I guess. Different people have different definitions of what the OSR is to them, and that's okay, right? If people are gaming and having fun, who cares what they call anything? Good morning, Prometheus Bound. How have you been? LexFire22, what's up? Thanks for popping in. I'm just pontificating on different aspects of the OSR, different segments, parts of the community. One thing I'm pretty sure about is if you get into D&D even today or tomorrow and you start playing first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, or if you start playing Three Little Booklets original Dungeons and Dragons from 74, I know that makes you an OSR person, because, and I'll tell you what, if you've been playing that stuff all of your life and you're playing it now and you're introducing first edition, for instance, like I play mostly, if you introduce first edition Dungeons and Dragons to somebody and bring them to your table, then you are reviving the game for them. So you can deny, Tim Connolly, you can deny that you are part of the OSR and say, I'm a first edition, blah, blah, blah. But I'm sorry, my friend. You have fallen into that. You are reviving old school gaming for someone, and that alone makes you part of the OSR. Kicking and screaming, you will be dragged into that camp. And you know what? I think that's I think that is probably the most undeniable. You can have a lot of different definitions for what is the OSR. Valexion. Yeah. In a very sing-song voice, good morning to you. And to you. Glad to hear you well, Prometheus. Very good. And then I think we also have to acknowledge that if you try to lump basic D&D in with original D&D as if it's, don't call them classic. Don't lump them together and call them classic. It's a separate thing in my mind. But see, what do I know, right? Am I being elitist by saying that? I don't think so. What do we want to look at today? I mean, I'm almost 10 minutes in and I'm just sitting here running my mouth. I think we want to look at Appendix J. Herbs, spices, and medicinal vegetables. This is kind of a quirky little chapter, or appendix rather. It's 3/4 of a page here on 220, and then another 3/4 of a page here on 221, making it all of a page and a half, right? Fractions are my friend. And, there's a little outro and a little intro, and then the rest is this table with plant and or a special part in one column, the precisely named plant and or special part, and then the use and or powers in the right column, and that's about it. Now I'm going to read the intro, and then I'm going to read the outro, and then we're going to look at the table, because I think the outro, I had a glance at it yesterday when I was deciding what to do today, and I feel it informs. Am I too big? 265? Yeah, probably. Let's make it 260. There we go. That fits in the page. There are hundreds of different vegetable flavors and seasonings which were or are reputed to have medicinal and or magical properties. It is not within the scope of this work to detail all of these herbs and spices, particularly as regards to their description, habitat, and the many uses claimed for most. An alphabetical listing with one or two comments on each is presented. The dedicated herbologist will have to pursue his or her research in scholarly texts. The dedicated herbologist is you. And that's all right. So he's saying, you know what? This is just kind of an overview. Check it out. Get what you can out of it. And if you need more, then do yourself a favor. Lost in the Briars. Ooh, there's 3 skulls down there. How many members in that party? The outro says, it is suggested that you use the above list as a guide to which herbs, spices, or vegetable you will require for various magical effects. For various magical effects desired from potions, scroll links, and other magic items. You may add or delete from the list as you desire. Reputed folk uses are not detailed with respect to magic in most cases, as this decision is the purview of the DM. As always, we're going back to the caveat that at the end of the day, all of this is up to the DM. This is guidance. Do with it what you will. Velixion says, I'm new and most familiar with 5e. That is, not too familiar, but know some. What are some of the most broken things in early editions? Oh boy, I don't know. That's a whole show on its own, buddy. And this show's about this particular appendix, so sorry if I can't answer that question without derailing the whole shabazz here. So I'll give it some thought, though. Maybe I can do a future show on broken things. I'll tell you what, though. I don't usually focus on the broken. I'm more of a positive and look at what works and how to make it better. Occasionally, if something crops up and I figure out a way to fix it in the process of running a game, I'll pass on that sort of a tip on Thursdays on GMing tips. So maybe Thursdays is a good day to pop in to discuss fixes for things. But I don't know. That's an interesting question. I'll keep that in the back of my mind and let it swirl around and ruminate. It's a whole lot more dangerous for low-level players. Yeah, this is true. There's no doubt that earlier editions of the game can be quite deadly for characters, and that it is much more considered a part of the game to be accepted and acknowledged. I think over the years we've removed a lot of the chutes from Chutes and Ladders so that people still have to climb, but they don't have to stumble as often in gaming in general. Some people have decided it's not fun. And I think, and Wizards does this with Magic, and they do this with D&D, and they do this with everything. And I don't know that there's always been power creep in all games, right? As a game continues to exist over time, you need more and new ways to keep people excited about it. And sometimes that results in a certain amount of power creep. It's no longer zeros to heroes. We start off as heroes and then become bigger heroes. So there's still a progression, but the beginning point has moved up higher. And a lot of the stumbling blocks get taken out of the way. Although I know some people that play 5th edition on the regular at the game store, or did when we were still open, pre-pandemic, and will after we open up again. And they're a great bunch of guys. And guys and girls. And no offense to Jackie or any of the other women that play with that group, but they are all just fine with characters passing away, and I'm often taken aback when they tell me some of the stories of how somebody got sucked into the maw of a giant purple worm, and they're rolling up a new character, and I would guess as often as not, somebody passes away every other session, some player character. So that's a pretty deadly group. I don't know a lot of 1st edition groups that have that kind of a death rate. So I don't even think my last campaign had a very high death rate. Lower levels, it's a lot tougher. Once you get up to the higher levels and have access to healing and more healing and resurrections and that sort of thing, then sometimes character death is essentially mitigated by just throwing enough money at the problem, right? Boom boom, Amset root mixed with acorn seems like it would be quite evil. You're reading the respiratory disorders. It's good against respiratory disorders, so says the Sage Gygax and the DMG. A lot to do with live or die saves in early editions, it's true. And Spheres of Annihilation, if there aren't any molecules left to revive, then so it goes. Hi, Heath. I love Australia. Particularly Adelaide. So yeah, check out definitely check out Appendix J, Herbs, Spices, and Medicinal Vegetables. We'll just kind of zip through some of this stuff. Take a glance at a few here or there. I think it's more interesting to check the right-hand column. Anti-vomiting, sedative. Do we need to be that specific in gaming? If we have a poison that causes uncontrollable vomiting and someone says, well, I go get the Adru, can they use that as a curative to stop that? Burns, bites, burns, laxative, tonic, insect repellent. So I'm guessing some of this is applied externally. Well, sometimes it's ingested. Laxative. Who found out? Oh, wait, aloe. I'll just spread some of that on this burn. Oh, that's working great. Probably works great to have some inside you. And then they found out it's a laxative when ingested. That is problematic. I'm going to fight the red dragon. I'll just eat some of this aloe first. Not that they wouldn't be crapping their pants to begin with against a red dragon, but speeding up the process with ingested aloe is probably not the plan you want to call Plan A. Astringent bladder infection for the Mayflower. Sandwort is a diuretic, good for urinary diseases. You know, Appendix N has a lot of fiction and such. It would have been neat if Appendix N2 had a list of the various reference books that Gary had on his shelf. Just here's one on herbs, medicinal herbs. Here's another one on, because you know he's got piles of books that he picked up at secondhand bookstores and other places that became his reference library for the breadth. Oop, hit the mic. The breadth of his knowledge was pretty wide, and it doesn't. Well, a lot of it could have been in his head from reading over time. You know that the books were handy while he was writing this stuff, and he popped it open and said, "Okay, I got barley, basil. Oh, I didn't put bay leaf. Here's the bay leaf. Well, add bay leaf because that's good for what? Oh, question mark. So why did we go to this one? Basil is good for nervous disorders. Barley is a nutrient and recuperative, hence excellent mead, no beer. Anyway, barley malt, delicious, delicious. Organic cleanser for a beet. I was thinking as a poison to cause coughing and hardening of the lungs. Oh, for the abscess root, mixed with acorn. Interesting. How much of DMs you have played under focused on physical ailments like the ones in this appendix? That's an interesting question. I would say that there are probably the number of DMs whose campaigns I have played in, so multiple games rather than just like a one shot at a convention or a game day, because you don't see a lot of this. Let's be clear, you don't see a lot of stuff like this at this detail level in one shots in 3 or 4 hour sessions. Sometimes something like this will be part of an adventure like that, but when it is, it tends to be utilized as a key component to solving whatever mystery there is or clue to tracking down the big bad, or something about putting something like this in. It needs to be put in with reason. You don't want a lot of red herrings in one-shot games. Maybe you have one, but if you just have a whole pile of unconnected information thrown in, it's going to be a very unsatisfying one-shot game. But as far as campaigns are concerned, certainly early on, in the 80s, in the 70s, campaign games would have a lot of this sort of stuff mixed in, where I think probably you didn't see this, but there are other sections of the game where you periodically roll over the course of the campaign about different diseases people can come down with because of their living conditions. You know, we're not talking about hermetically sealed shelters where you go and you strip off your armor when you come back from an adventure and step into a decon chamber. and wipe yourself clean, and then send out your armor and your tunic for dry cleaning. I mean, the the conceit is that this is a medieval fantasy world wherein the living conditions and the hygiene are generally considered to be medieval. Now, certainly, adventurers with plenty of gold and silver and who want to spend it on that will take certain precautions to avoid those sort of things. But even so, you're running to the bazaar to go get some rations, or you're going to the money chamber, and there's all sorts of people you're running into along the way. And I think even in this day and age, we can realize that people getting close to each other. I'd like to see paladin that's disease. I'd like to see a paladin that's disease and poison immunity makes him a terrible cook because he never bothered to learn cooking and doesn't know the danger of nightshade. Oh, I see. So when he goes to test it himself, nothing happens. Is the idea, huh? Well, I don't know. It depends how the DM plays it out, right? Because if he thinks that it has an interesting flavor and throws it in, and just because he can't poison himself, doesn't mean that he doesn't feel some of the effects, even though it doesn't knock him out. Do we still realize that the poison is there? So while my system can battle it and it won't take me down, am I aware of it? That's kind of the question that a DM has to answer for their own campaign. But I see what you're saying. Yeah, I'm eating these berries. I didn't know they were poison. You have some. Here you go. Spreads them around with the rest of the group. Everybody else dies because he's immune to poison. It's an interesting premise. I've added disease and infection and ailments in gaming, and used this list for alchemist, potion, and ointment crafting. Just add flavor to a campaign. It can be an adventure for a group. It's true, Lexfire. Very true. The number of adventures that were to go get a basilisk guy, or the horns of a certain kind of dragon, because they were, or even just to get some obscure herb that doesn't grow in this part of the country. So I have to go into a rival country where they're xenophobic, and suddenly me walking around in armor is a threat to them. So my lawful good guy is suddenly the bad guy because I'm intruding. So yeah, there's all sorts of ways that you can create adventures regardless of the thing. But I tell you what, we are, according to the clock on the wall, out of time. Pomegranate, pumpkin seeds, radish, figwort, ginger, ginseng, Irish moss, leek, masterwort, mistletoe. We got it all. So yeah, look this list up. Look up Appendix J. Spend some time with it. And I'll tell you what, even if you do nothing but read through it, and don't purposefully try to create something out of it immediately, some of it will stick with you. And then somewhere down the line, you will find that it is an interesting thing to have read, because ideas will come to you in a moment during a game. Well, I want to thank everybody very much for checking out the show today. Thank you in particular if you popped in on the stream chat and let us know you're not a bot. We'll make sure to get each and every one of you in on the Yeah, let me just get you on the list for the giveaway, which we do. Make sure you're a follower of the channel to be able to take advantage of that, because we'll put you on the list, but you got to also be following the channel to be able to get in on the giveaway, which is nice. So do it. Why not, right? Anywho, thanks once again, and if you are around tomorrow, 9:30 a.m., we've got campaign discussion going on Thursday, GMing tips, building adventures on Friday, GM reviews on Saturday, the rules retrospective on Sunday, weekly news and announcements on Monday, and back around the horn to cartography and world building on Tuesday. I swear I will have a cartography episode before too long. We just got to get the right thing in mind, right? And then, if you're on YouTube, thank you very much. Please do subscribe to the channel and do me a favor. Click that thumbs up. Make a comment. Got some constructive criticism? We're always happy to hear it. Anything that helps the show is appreciated. So, once again, thank you for tuning into the OK Grognard Show. We're here every day, 9:30 a.m. Come on back in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.